Alrighty. So we have reached Championship Sunday. Well, we're almost there, but that's the next week up. And we've got an unexpected matchup be between the Commanders and the Eagles, both teams which I predicted to be one and done. So my bracket, as you can suspect, the only team remaining in it that I picked correctly, of course, was the Chiefs. And then we have the Bills taking on the Chiefs in Arrowhead. That game obviously is going to be highly anticipated, and I think I speak for, well, all of my friends when I say we're all rooting for the Bills. Um,
Yeah, the AFC side of my predictions doesn't look that bad. I had these two teams going to the AFC Championship, but yeah, the NFC side, like you, both representatives we have in the Conference Championship, I had going one and done. So, uh, not a great year for the JR Takes playoff predictions, but I swear every year it's so hard to do that. I guess let's start with the Bills game, or maybe let's back up and just kind of go over the divisional matchups because I don't think we've had a chance to talk about that
mhm.
yet. Biggest surprise by far to me definitely was the Lions game. That was shocking. That was a team that I picked to win the Super Bowl. So to
Same.
see them not only lose, but not even really play all that competitive of a game against the Commanders, who I thought, were just kind of a fun story was shocking. It kind of reminded me of like the 2011 Packers that went 15-1 and then lost to the fucking Giants at home. Like you do see this happen every once in a while, but I really thought that this year's Lions were different. They looked like a different speed than everyone this year. But they just I don't know if they just didn't, take the Commanders seriously enough or what, but they got their ass beat.
Yeah, I personally think I think their injuries on defense finally caught up to them.
Hmm.
I mean, I think they gave up 40 plus points to the Commanders. And then I don't know if you noticed this at all. This is just, me speculating on what I've seen throughout the week, but it really seemed like Ben Johnson was checked out.
Oh yeah. That's
Like
what I was thinking as
he's been
well.
acting like he won the lottery like all week. And which, I mean, rightfully so. He's like he earned that position he's gotten. I mean, he was the hottest, prospect of a coach this offseason. So,
Kind of
um,
last offseason too. Remember, we interviewed him. A number of teams did, and he chose to go back to Detroit for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, I like the hire for Chicago for Caleb Williams' sake because Ben Johnson has helped Jared Goff's career immensely. But I mean, there's a big difference between being a good coordinator and being a good coach, and it remains to be seen if Johnson can do the tasks that are required of a head coach, which is a lot more interpersonal skills than just drawing up fun trick plays when you're up by 30 points in Dallas.
right. Um, but yeah, that game did have me feeling like at the Commanders Lions game, I kind of feel like the Commanders might beat the Eagles on Sunday. The
It's
way
definitely
that they're
possible.
the way that they're playing, they feel like I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the Bengals a couple years ago when the Bengals were just winning all of a sudden and then all of a sudden they were in the Super Bowl. I could see something like that happening again.
It's getting harder to doubt with the more wins that the Commanders are stacking up here in the playoffs because again, I thought that the Bucks would take care of them. And that was a close game, but probably the best team in the tournament in the NFC side, the Lions just got, 45 put on them by the Commanders. Granted, I think the Lions had four turnovers in that game.
Hmm.
So I think this Eagles team is better than the Commanders, and the Commanders don't have a great run defense, and that's not what you want going against, the best running back in the league right now in Saquon Barkley. But if Hurts makes a mistake and throws a couple interceptions, like this Commanders offense is lethal, and Jaden Daniels is having arguably the best rookie QB season ever. right now. I will say a rookie QB has never made the Super Bowl, and you could say that is a historical sign that Commanders might not have a shot here, or you could say that you know eventually things like that do happen, and history is made. But
I'm
yeah, definitely a really exciting game coming up this weekend. Probably, I mean, we kind of got one of the funner championship Sundays possible, I think, because if the Rams were in the Eagles' place right now, I would be miserable. And the Eagles almost blew it against them last week in that snowy game in Philadelphia. The Eagles managed to close it out, but you had the Rams driving with like a minute left for the tying or winning score. But yeah, definitely glad they took care of business against Stafford and company.
I almost feel like it's almost destiny. If the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, it would be pretty awesome to see a rookie quarterback finally go to the Super Bowl because it'd be the opportunity for a three-peat versus a rookie quarterback winning a Super Bowl. Like either
Yeah, I
outcome
guess
would be something we've never seen before. Not saying I want that to happen. I'm just saying like at the very least there's that. I guess we could see history,
yeah,
but
and just think of that narrative if you did have Jaden Daniels going against Patrick Mahomes to stop a three-peat and he manages to pull it off as the first rookie quarterback ever
he
in
would
the
be
Super
like
Bowl.
the messiah of the
Yeah,
NFL if he did that.
he would already have like legendary status to his name after one season. So it'd be really crazy. I think everyone in the world is hoping that it isn't Chiefs Eagles again. We just saw that 2 years ago. Both those teams are kind of annoying. Definitely would be rooting for the Eagles in that scenario, but I would like the Commanders to make it. That's
See, oh,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just gonna say I almost want the Commanders to win because I feel like they are so like a nothing to lose team right now. They're like playing with house money. They shouldn't have made it this far. I feel like they have a better chance than the Eagles. I don't know about you, but I just have next to no confidence when I watch Jalen Hurts. Like compared to the quarterback play he was giving us 2 years ago when he was in the Super Bowl, it's just like a completely different player. So I would have more confidence in Jaden Daniels like willing his way to beating the Chiefs than I think I would the Eagles. But then again, hungry and humble made
They've been
us
he
eat they made us eat some humble pie. So
Yeah, they've been proving us wrong literally since week 4, whenever we made that video. It's been a rough run for us. But yeah, I mean, my personal opinion, I think Jalen Hurts is a little bit of a tush push merchant. I
mm,
don't think he's a great passer still. Like he can do some things, but he people criticize guys like Brock Purdy or Jared Goff for their weapons or whatever. Like Jalen Hurts has been throwing to AJ Brown for years, one of the best receivers in football, and he's handed it off to Barkley, who's the best running back in football. So he's got all the help around him. Whenever I watch the Eagles, I'm so jealous of the time that they provide for him back there too. And he took 7 sacks and a safety last week against the Rams, most of which I would have put on Hurts. He was holding on to the ball for an eternity. So I do agree with you. I think, he is a real flaw to that Eagles operation, but I also think he's good enough to get them to the big game again, assuming the rest of the team around them plays the way they have been the last few weeks.
yeah.
But flipping over to the games we saw in the AFC last week, Buffalo, Baltimore, we'll start with them. Really, really fun game, down to the wire, down to literally the last series, basically. And I swear this was a case of the Ravens looking like the better team, but just not able to get out of their own way. Lamar had 2 turnovers. Mark Andrews had a turnover on a fumble as well as a dropped 2-point conversion that I'm sorry, I think my wife could have made that catch. It was bad. It was as bad as a drop as you'll see, and he knows it. I'm sure he's sick right now. But the Bills just played a clean game, not necessarily like a fantastic game offensively, but they did just enough to get back to the AFC Championship, and here we are, what seems like the fourth year in a row. It might not be, but it feels like this Josh Allen Mahomes playoff rivalry is kind of like the new Brady Manning rivalry, where as of now, I mean, Mahomes has owned him in the playoffs, but it does feel like things could be different this year because going over to the Kansas City Houston game last weekend, I mean, like, yeah, the Chiefs made a few good plays, got enough offense to win the game, but all anyone is going to talk about from that Houston Kansas City game is how bad the refs were. And it sucks that that's what the narrative is, but you literally had Troy Aikman say, "Oh, come on," at the second roughing the passer penalty they called against Houston because it's just ridiculous. Like it does just how can you argue that that guy's not treated different from the rest of the league, you know? Like I feel like it's fairly obvious at this point.
Well, and he knows it because he's the one flopping on the sideline trying to draw flags. It's like I like it's getting to a point where like we're starting to not respect your play. Like
Yeah.
I don't respect a player that does that. Fuck that.
That's how I feel at this moment in time about Mahomes. And you know, for the first chunk of his career, he was one of my favorite players because he's really fun to watch. But
Hmm.
you know, with it's natural when a team's winning that much to get sick of it, but it's also natural when you feel like they're getting all the calls in the big moments and you see a guy blatantly flopping to get the calls because he knows it. It's just not a good look. And it makes them very hateable. I'm going to be a huge Bills fan this Sunday. Really hope they can win that game because, again, to your point earlier, if the Bills make the Super Bowl as opposed to the Chiefs, that's another opportunity for history because they've never won a Super Bowl. So it would just make one more thing of intrigue for the matchup.
Also, I don't know if you saw that I posted on Threads, but a couple days ago, I think it was on the 17th or something, um, but like 18 years ago, I think it was, Manning beat Brady for the first time after being 0-3 against him in the playoffs, and we're looking at
Mm,
the same scenario in Allen Mahomes. So is history
that
going to repeat
really
itself?
18 years ago?
Yeah,
We're
because it
getting
was in
old, dude.
2000, it was in the 2006 season.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because that was that's when the Colts won the Super Bowl, right? Against the
Hmm.
Bears?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an ugly Super Bowl too. They,
Yeah.
it's funny for as much hype as the Super Bowl gets, and deservedly so, a lot of Super Bowls I've watched in my day have been bad games. You know, the first one I watched was the Seahawks and Steelers, and almost everyone doesn't have fond memories from that game because it was a bad game and it was horribly officiated.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think no matter what, we're gonna get a good matchup this year. I don't think you're gonna get like a 2018 scenario where you have one team score 3 points and the other score like 13 or 16 or whatever the Patriots did that year. But at this point, I'm basically just hoping for anyone but Chiefs. I was kind of always hoping that, but here we are.
I know. I just I feel like the way the Bills played against the Ravens, like how you said they did just enough. I feel like if they play like that against the Chiefs, they will win because they're not trying to do too much. They're not going to beat themselves, and that's how the Chiefs always win. Like, and I keep hearing throughout the week, Josh Allen has technically more roughing the passer flags for his team than Mahomes does. It's like, so fucking what? Mahomes is getting them in situational football. It's
Hmm.
bullshit. Doesn't matter the amount. It's the quality of the situation, not the quantity of the flag being thrown.
Yeah,
So,
it's like I mean, that might just mean that Josh Allen is getting hit late more than Mahomes is, and it might mean nothing else beyond that.
yeah.
So I hate when people just try to like throw some stat up like that to argue against what you're seeing with your eyes, and it's like, no, that's bullshit.
Yeah, remember the AFC Championship game last year when the Bengals they had so many calls against them situationally that just fucked them over. Like they should have
Hmm.
won that game. But here we are, about to. pray against the three-peat. So
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I feel like the Bengals were so disappointing this year. You forget that they were, a flag away from making it back to the Super Bowl just 1 year ago. It's
hmm
kind of crazy. But yeah, I
yeah,
guess
but
do you have predictions for how this weekend is gonna go?
yeah, I think the Bills are gonna win. I think the Bills are gonna win because of the Peyton Manning Brady. I think history is going to repeat itself, and I think Josh Allen and the Bills are gonna win their first Super Bowl.
All right, who do you got on the NFC getting there?
Um, I'm going Commanders. I'm
So
riding with the rookie.
you're choosing like the most fun scenario then.
Yeah, I do think I could see it being Chiefs Commanders. Honestly, it's dumb for me to say that because I could see all of the scenarios playing out, but like if it's not Bills Commanders, like I just don't really think the Eagles are gonna win. But
Hmm. I do. I think it's gonna be Buffalo versus Philly. And I think Buffalo would win that game. Like not handily, but I think they'd find a way to win that game. I think that'd be a good matchup too. But that's kind of the way I see things. With how my predictions have gone this playoff season, it's gonna be Chiefs Commanders. But my formal prediction is Bills Philly, and I have the Bills winning that game. But every time I pick the Bills, they do not hold up their end of the bargain. So we'll see.
I know it's like the curse of being a Bills fan. Every time anyone decides, all right, I'll root for them, they lose.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember back in like the 2020 playoff bracket before we were even doing this podcast, I think I picked the Bills to win that year and they lost in the AFC Championship. It might have been 2021, but or it might have been like both seasons. I feel like they've had a very similar run
They've
basically
actually
since Josh
only
Allen
lost.
got good.
They've only lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship one time,
Was that what
and
year
that
was
was
that?
because
That 2022?
they lost in the divisional round in 2022 or 2021 because that was the year that
Yeah,
following the week that the Bills lost, the Chiefs lost to the Bengals.
that's right. Yeah, and that's how the Bengals made it. But yeah, we'll see. I hope we don't have to see the three-peat.
Yeah,
I
that would
want it to
really
be someone
suck.
else if we ever see. I want it to be us.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
obviously.
yeah.
Um, but moving kind of on to more recent news. This morning, we got breaking that Pete Carroll is going to be the new head coach on a 3-year contract with I believe it was a fourth year option or something,
Yeah, I
uh,
think that is
for the
correct.
Las Vegas Raiders. And
It's
I'm
really
super stoked for him.
fascinating. Me too. I am really happy for Pete the man because I know he wasn't done. It's crazy that a 73-year-old is like, I ain't done yet. But the boomer generation seems to never want to quit working no matter what job it is. So just kind of a sign of the times, I guess. But Pete, he's my favorite coach of all time, probably always will be. So I'll be rooting for him. I am a pseudo Raiders fan moving forward just because I love Pete. Um, it's going to be really interesting to see what he does with that franchise, though, because since I started watching football, the Raiders have been the worst team, if not them, then like the Jaguars or the Browns. Those are kind of like the three bottom tier franchises. But perhaps the Raiders really are the worst of the worst because at least like the Jaguars and Browns have won a playoff game since I've been watching.
Right.
And right now, like they have like Max Crosby and Brock Bowers and a whole bunch of players around them that wouldn't be starting on a lot of other teams. So there's a lot of work to do. It's kind of not super similar to how the Seahawks were when Pete joined on because I mean the Seahawks were 5 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance when he joined, but they were one of the worst rosters in the league. However, this has been one of the worst franchises for 20 plus years. So he's really got his work cut out for him. I think knowing Pete, this first draft is all going to be about the defense, is my guess. I think he's going to try to load up on that side of the ball. But I think it's fascinating the opportunity he's going to have here at quarterback because the Raiders have, I believe, the sixth pick in the draft. Probably wouldn't end up with Shador or Cam Ward at that point. I think they will both be gone. But you could take a quarterback there if there was a guy you really liked. But on the free agency market, little guy named Russell Wilson might be available. So there could be a reunion there. Maybe that bridge is burned. I don't know. You never know what is truly going on with those types of relationships, but
You
it's an
never know.
interesting thought.
Russ showed up to his retirement party, so
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's funny, it was his retirement party and it was like a year ago. And now they have a chance to reunite here. I think it would be fun personally. Like, is it a good football move? I don't know. I mean, Wilson could just throw to Brock Bowers 12 times a game. He was doing that with Freiermuth in Pittsburgh. So the Raiders need to get some weapons around them. But I think if they want to win next season, which because Pete is there, I know is the case, I think it would be a good move because otherwise, if you roll with Aiden O'Connell or Minshew again, you already saw what your ceiling is with that, and that's getting the sixth overall pick in the draft.
right. And like I feel like you can't like Pete Carroll doesn't have the time to like waste this year.
Yeah, exactly. Especially he's on a 3-year deal, and I mean, if he does bad, the Raiders might just fire him and hire some like 37-year-old coordinator in like Minnesota, for all we
Yeah.
know, because that's what the league is doing right now. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like people are talking about it as a, like kind of unlikely thing to happen. I've even heard people say like, "Oh, maybe they're going to trade for Geno." I highly, highly doubt that John Schneider would do that. Um,
I would be on board for that.
really? I mean, what would you
Why
want
not?
back?
Dude, I'm tired of being middle of the pack. We're never gonna be like up there with the elites with like I just don't think we are with Geno at quarterback.
I don't think you're going to get anybody this next season that is going to do better than him.
That's fine. I'm honestly willing to get a high draft pick and just be bad this year.
But we've had high draft picks the last like 3 seasons, and we're gonna waste another year of all of those rookie contracts if you just throw this next season away.
Yeah, but like we've had like in the teens, and I guess we had Devin Witherspoon, but I don't know. I just feel like it's just such a quarterback driven league, and I just don't put Geno on the tiers of the Mahomes, the Allens, the Lamar. Like I just think eventually we will need to gamble and try to get a guy like that.
I don't disagree with that at all. I just don't think that guy is in this draft, even including the top two guys.
Sure.
And on top of that, if you do think it is those two guys, we don't have a chance to get them unless you sell everything to get like the number two overall pick, which I definitely don't want to do. I mean, I hear where you stand on it. I think what we should do is just extend Geno for one more season, having the next 2 years, and then make our move for quarterback long term next season. Because I think right now, even on the free agency side, like what are you going to sign Sam Darnold for like a $40 million contract per season? And I don't think Sam Darnold is better than Geno. Like he had some good games, but he's throwing to Justin Jefferson in a really quarterback friendly system and absolutely collapsed the last couple games of the season. So it's a complicated situation, but I think your ceiling with Geno is having like the ninth best quarterback in the league. And I think if we build the team around him, you can do a lot with that. But back to the Pete Raiders, I think that the Russell Wilson thing is actually I give it a 50-50 chance of happening. And I think if they don't do that, call me crazy, but I feel like someone like Mac Jones could end up being their quarterback next season because Pete Carroll is definitely the type of guy that believes in like reviving someone's career. I mean, look at all the flyers we took on players of all sorts of different positions, but especially at the quarterback position, he's gotten like, I mean, Geno is like the best example of what I'm talking about. Like he literally was written off and then comes out and has a Pro Bowl season in 2022.
Hmm.
So I I kind of just don't think they're going to draft a quarterback is all what I'm trying to say. At least not with the sixth overall pick. I think they'll there's that really good pass rusher out of I believe Penn State.
Yeah, I know who
Can't
you're
remember
talking
his
about.
name. I feel like that's who Pete is going to get in this draft, but we'll see. It's going to be really fun to watch, man. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing if he can turn the Raiders around culturally because the Raiders have just they've been a joke our entire lives. Like,
Yeah, they really have been, and I think I mean that's the first thing he set out to do when he signed with the Seahawks in 2010, and that culture he built. I know we got a new coach now, but that culture is still in Seattle. You know, I believe Mike McDonald is just kind of purveying his version of that culture, but it's all built up. I believe the I'm in stuff is still on the facility or whatever. I could be wrong
mhm.
about that, but they didn't erase everything to do with Pete Carroll. They got rid of the basketball hoop at the podium, but I mean that's about it. I you wouldn't want that shadow hanging over you as well if you're Mike. But another news item that came in like 30 minutes ago. Hank Fraley, the run game coordinator of, or the offensive line coach of the Lions,
Mhm.
that we interviewed several times for the offensive coordinator position, apparently is staying in Detroit. His wife made a Facebook post about it and said they're staying in Detroit, and then now Tom Pelissero and company are all reporting on it. So I mean, my general take
Is
is
he going to be their coordinator?
he's going to be their run game coordinator slash offensive line coach. So I'm not sure what they're doing for offensive coordinator, but I think it kind of illustrates that we've taken our time here on this hire and we've cast a pretty wide net of our interviewees, but we need to make that move soon because now you have more teams out there that are looking to fill that position of offensive coordinator now, and I still am really interested in Clint Kubiak. I know the Saints weren't fantastic on offense this season, but I think he's a really promising young offensive mind in this league. And after that, I mean, there's some interesting guys, but even someone I was kind of not opposed to hiring in Brian Schottenheimer sounds like he's going to be the Cowboys head coach within the next day or two here. So,
Yikes, by the way.
yeah, what are they
Letting
doing?
Mike McCarthy go and then you're going to replace him with Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, as your head coach,
Oh,
I don't know. Going from Jason Garrett to Mike McCarthy to now Schottenheimer, I feel like is the most mid run of head coaches possible. Like none of them are bad or horrible, but like Jerry, what are you doing, dude? He just wants to sell tickets and win his 9 games or whatever.
yeah, Jerry's fucking stupid. We are kind of running out of time, uh, as far as the recording is allowing us to go. But that's really, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot more. I mean, other than the Pete and the predictions. So,
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'm surprised we even found that much to talk about because for Seahawk land, it's been very slow for 3 weeks now.
yeah.
We're getting a hint of what the offseason is going to be like. But yeah, fuck the Chiefs, go Bills, and you know what? Go Commanders too, even though I chose the Eagles.
Agreed. Well, cool. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and we will hopefully be celebrating a Bills Commanders Super Bowl next week.
Indeed. Don't forget to subscribe if you're still here, and thanks for listening.
Yep. Talk to you later, guys.
See ya.